I do not know how much time I will have today to try to go through all of the items that I would like to discuss with you, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to give it a try. And the first thing you must understand is that whatever title I give a presentation, especially a live presentation, just that's what I thought at the time I wrote it. It has nothing to do with what I currently believe. It may or may not. It's just a title. It's just a name. It's just a name. It's like that brilliantly concocted Oppenheimer. That was brilliant, wasn't it? Wasn't that brilliant? Oppenheimer. Gee, I wonder what this is about. One of the biggest fraudulent movies of all time. But it doesn't matter because we are one of the most fraudulent societies of all time. So we have a lot to talk about. We will be talking about the eclipse tangentially. We'll be talking about a lot of things. I also want to know what happened to Fox News. I literally, we have on different things, kind of in the background to see, like, what are they talking about? This is all the night. And I walk by and I look at this Fox and Friends in the morning, and it looks like a waiting room of a Jiffy Lube in Encino. No, I don't know what that means, but it sounds like a Johnny Carson joke. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about plants. We're going to be talking about transition. We're going to be talking about things today that are so critical. And how Donald Trump is not a conservative, the myth of the abortion debate, Palestinian uprisings, false flags, plants, controlled opposition, Ben Shapiro, the chosen few, so many. And remember what my goal is. My goal is not to insult people. My goal is to explain things to you. My goal is to explain to you what's going on. I don't care one way or the other about this one or that one. It's not to make a joke about somebody. It's to explain something so that maybe all I want is one day, just every day, every morning at 8 and every evening at 7. I want to leave you and I want to give you at least, I hope a bunch, but at least one thing where you'll say, oh, that's interesting. I never thought about that. I never thought about that. That's good. That's all. If I can do that, I'm happy. I mean it. If I can do that, I'm happy. There's nothing really mystical or magical about it. But I just want you to say, I never noticed that before. I never noticed it before. Because I promise you, the way things are being presented to you comprise lies. I promise you, it's distortions. We have the news horizon, which is basically filled with people who are plants, the chosen few, controlled opposition, whatever you want to call them, stooges, deliberate theater animatronics, stalking horses, plants, spies, whatever works for you. We'll talk about that. Coincidence, another near collision. What is that about? The use of artificial intelligence in war, this Lavender project in Israel. The staged opposition, death to America. Death to America. If you were going to try to garner, engage, and to encourage support of the Palestinian movement, would you have people stand up yelling, death to America? That doesn't make any sense, does it? Well, why are they doing that? Who's doing it? We'll talk about this. And how things constantly change. The murmurations, the swaths, and how movements are, and political tribes and groups. Oh, God, get ready for this. Get ready for this. And don't forget, dear friends, as we speak, 211 days until the election. So first and foremost, I say, please do me a dear favor. Do me a favor. Do me a solid, as the kids say. And subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and the like, which is so critical. Make sure you like these videos. Liking is the lifeblood of our existence. But before we begin, this word from our sponsor. Well, it's time yet again to hail and salute our great friends at mypillow.com. And if you use promo code Lionel, you get a free gift. No purchase necessary. I know. A free gift. Gifts are free. Okay, it's a tautology. So sue me. But listen to me and listen carefully. What are we talking about here? Down comforters, flannel sheets, Giza Dream bed sheets, My Pillow 2.0 body pillows, waffle blankets, couch and recliner pillows, sheets, slippers, percales. I'm not even done yet. Towels, quilts, bedspreads, mattresses, mattress covers, mattress toppers, linens, kitchen towels, bathrobes, pet blankets, bolster pillows, name it. Items to help you luxuriate and relax. And they're monster sellers, slippers, my slippers, slip-ons, moccasins. Think about it. What do they do at My Pillow? What's their main goal? To make things real soft, plush, real comfy, or comfy as I say it. How perfect. So here's the link right now. Go to mypillow.com/Lionel. mypillow.com, promo code Lionel or /Lionel, or call 800-645-4965. 800-645-4965. And watch how fast our good friend Mike Lindell answers the phone. mypillow.com, promo code Lionel, simply and absolutely the best. Now, my friends, let's start off with a couple of things. First, this just broke. Sort of, but they're talking about it. And it is considered by many people to be of interest. Trump says abortion should be left to the states. Brilliant. Now, this is a story, this is something which I do not believe in any way is as important to anyone as people think it is. I don't. I do not believe that Americans care one lick about abortion because Americans don't care about anything. I'm not trying to be mean. Americans don't care about abortion. Most people aren't getting an abortion. Americans will tell you, well, I believe the life of... No. If your daughter gets knocked up by some, vagrant, horrible person, you're going to be, I promise you are going to be saying, and where can we go to terminate this? I know, but this is different. She's got her life in front of her. She's not going to go and have the baby upstate in some convent and then come back and say, hey, where have you been? No. But you said you were pro-life. I said I was pro-life for them, but not us. Come on, this is Trixie over here. This is whatever, Michaela. She's got her lacrosse scholar. What are you talking about? Nobody believes this. Nobody would say, nobody ever. Now, and I'm not talking about death risking the life of a parent. Or a mother. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's not murder. I'm not saying it's not terrible. I'm not saying but abortion is absolutely not an issue certainly not the Republicans. It's a pretend thing. It's like guns in conservative. Most conservatives don't have guns. They don't care about guns, but they say they do. They say they talk about the fight. They'll have to go to CPAC and wave. What real conservative types want is what everybody else wants, kind of rational thinking. I guarantee you the threat that squatting poses, and we'll get to that, the sweat. Oh, and by the way, just so that you know, on the Lionel Nation, I think I told you this before. I'm going to tell you again. I have another channel. It's more, dare I say, more legally oriented, if that makes any sense. A little bit more, dare I say, again, legal, as it were. And this is about this thing called squatting. And squatting is one of the most brilliant exercises about how things just come about out of nowhere. And I invite you, of course, to listen to this. And in fact, here's the latest video, the latest piece of it, which is right there at Lionel Legal. You can go and listen to it. But anyway, Americans don't care about this abortion business. They just don't. And if Republicans think they're going to win, just pay some lip service and move on. But here's what Trump said, which is the most important. After months spent refusing to stake out. And by the way, this was good because it basically made people It made people recognize, to build up, the intensity. Gee, what's he going to say? But after months of refusing to stake out his clear position or his thoughts and theories on abortion, President Trump announced today that he believes the issue should be left to the states to adjudicate. I guess by implication, rejecting some federal ban of the kind that many pro-life activists and lawmakers have embraced in the aftermath of Roe, which makes the most sense. That's the most ridiculous thing. Here's the bottom line, and this is what I've been saying, and you've been saying, and everybody's been saying. It should be left up to the states. The death penalty is left up to the states. There is no federal. We'll get to Katt Williams in a moment, but there is no federal guarantee of this. There's nothing in the Constitution. He appeared on Truth Social in a video message, and he said the president took credit for the Dobbs decision, suggested that everybody is satisfied with the current state of abortion jurisprudence. Okay. Quote, he says, "My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint. The states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both. Now, whatever they decide must be the law of the land. In this case, the law of the state." Terrific. Now, by announcing his support for this, dare I say, a very overused word, this federalist approach to abortion laws and regulations and legislation, he seems to have basically rejected this 15-week abortion ban that was the position held by and suggested by Lindsey Graham and Kellyanne Conway. That's ridiculous. He's smart in this respect. He's absolutely smart. Abortion is a killer. I don't mean there's no pun there. It's a killer. It is an absolute killer. It is an issue that the fringe talks about, that CPAC talks about, that those idiots on Fox News. I'm telling you, this Fox and Friends, oh dear God. Oh my God. If you ever know what it feels like, what does it feel like to suffer like a real serious ischemic attack, like a real serious stroke? Watch Fox and Friends. Because you'll say, what? Let me address this. I didn't want to, but I'm gonna mention this. This is the Constitution. And the Constitution provides that you cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That's it. That's the only guarantees. Abortion is not one of them. Life, liberty, or property. And it doesn't say you're guaranteed life. It doesn't say you're guaranteed property or liberty. It just means you can't have it taken away without due process. A woman does not have a right to have an abortion. It doesn't exist. Is it life? No, it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It doesn't mean that you can't allow it, because people have thought for the longest time that the Constitution is somehow tantamount to that. This is something called due process. There are movements called, in Roe, substantive due process, which is a joke. I'm not going to go into it. But it's the idea that there are some laws and some provisions that are so important and so critical that they must be provided for by statute, that they must be, it's ridiculous. And it started in 1965 with a case called Griswold. William O. Douglas had this case, and there's an eclipse reference here. They had a case in which, in the state of Connecticut, contraception was banned. Contraception was banned by statute, even if you were a married couple. It was ridiculous. So instead of going to Hartford or wherever the hell the state capital is and passing a law that says, hey, this is crazy, they said, no, let's take this to the Supreme Court, because they think the Constitution grants you. People think that the Constitution, it's in there. They say, no, it doesn't. Nino Scalia used to always talk about this. Was it Prego or Ragu? I forget. Prego. And there was this commercial that said it was about this people that are making this Italian, gravy or sauce or whatever. And they said, "Hey, Maria, you're making this from a jar?" Yes. Well, that's crazy. Well, it may be crazy, but come on. Does it have oregano? It's in there. Does it have basil? It's in there. Does it have olive oil? It's in there. Does it have garlic? It's in there. And that's what people think about the Constitution. Nino Scalia said. It's like they think it's in there. It's not in there. It doesn't cover a lot of things. So William O. Douglas, 1965, said, "I have an idea. There's something so fundamentally wrong with a statute that prohibits married couples from using contraception." I agree. Great. I agree. All right. And more importantly, there should be something done about it. So go to the legislature. No, I'm going to come up with something called privacy. And he said, and I want to read this privacy penumbra. And why this is important, because today with the eclipse, umbras and penumbras, this makes sense. Privacy penumbra. This was the one this is the one. The Supreme Court has ruled that several amendments in the Bill of Rights cast a penumbra of the right to privacy, although the right to privacy itself has never been explicitly stated. It's the most ridiculous thing anybody's ever said. So William O. Douglas decided and came up with this notion called privacy. And therefore, he found this particular statute unconstitutional because of this thing called privacy that he made up. That's like if I said, you have a right to stuff, to use a George Carlin reference. You have a right to stuff. Right to stuff? Yeah, I think because of the penumbra. You have a right not to be offended. What? Because of the penumbra, these rights that are kind of there. What are you talking about? Well, it doesn't matter what I'm talking about. It just means that the right to. Okay, you got it? That's where we are. That's where this lunacy of abortion is. And I think it's murder, and I think it's wrong, but I don't think a woman should go to prison because she has an abortion. So I guess I'm pro-choice. And that's it. And it's a moot, and it's a death issue. Not because of the issue, but because of if you make this a part of your move, Mr. President, you are out of your mind. Now, I want to explain something to you, which is the most important. And this is really interesting because remember, I could be talking about a lot of stuff, but I talk about things I'm interested in. And more importantly, I think things I'm interested in, but I think things that are interesting to you. As you know, there are people, not the most important people in the world are not necessarily politicians or senators and the like. Believe me, they're not. Look at Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan is he's like Ben Shapiro. He's this paid actor. He's a crisis actor. He is there to represent this position, and he's paid handsomely for it. Say this. Charlie Kirk, another one. Say this. And in the black community, they have Oprah, Tyler Perry to an extent, to Steve Harvey's, and they have these other folks who are playing, and Oprah is top of the heap. And little by little, Denzel Washington's talking about a Katt Williams. By the way, they're trying to show that Katt Williams, there was a fight that broke out. Okay, fine. They're going to destroy him. They're going to have to teach him a lesson. So Katt Williams had better be very, very careful because Katt Williams dared to talk about the Illuminati. And that's his word for it. I disagree with it, but anyway, that's what he calls it. Okay. So he talks about the Illuminati and he talks about something. So Denzel Washington was the latest. And there's some really great, great, great folks who do a lot of our research for us because they notice these things. And what they're doing is they're showing you that these folks who for years were the backbone of, remember, the thing to do, Oprah and Sharp and others were keep black people at bay, keep them corralled, keep them owned, just keep them, be the voice of this. You will be absolutely treated marvelously if you do this. Stay with this. Okay? Good. We will take care of you. There's just a great, and you call them psyops, great stuff. Ben Shapiro. Nothing personal, but you know what's going on. And what you do is you want to get people and you want people to come along. If all of a sudden, Turning Point America, Charlie Kirk, okay, that's good. Help this guy out because they are as important and they are as critical and they are as valued in getting the country to turn towards your way. By the way, sometimes every now and then somebody else comes up that they don't like Alex Jones. Alex Jones has to be crushed by those because he forms and he represents, theoretically, in some respects, an absolute source of destruction, though he is, whether he does it or not. By the way, here's what Alex Jones wants to do. Alex Jones says, look, let me make my money, sell my vitamins. It's like, okay, fine. There was a story today he read. Did you hear about in Ukraine? Men are marrying. Now, how critical this is. You can read this for yourself, but I never heard this on ABC. I don't listen to ABC. Men are marrying handicapped, disabled Ukrainian women to exchange or to receive frontline mobilization exemptions under Ukrainian law. Is it illegal? Well, whatever. Interesting. There is a story of people who were disabled being, drafted. Is it true? Well, it's interesting. We'll get to that. How about this? Anybody talk about this Lavender program? The use of artificial intelligence in warfare? No. Anybody talking about this out here in New York, this area, this channel where this merchant vessel lost power again, heading right towards the Verrazano Narrows that connects us to Staten Island, this big? No. Anybody bring up geoengineering that is being taught? Political kind of hinted at it. No. Listen to what I'm telling you. You have people out there who are trying to distract you, who want you to look over here. And you have got to recognize something. The analogy is, if you know how to cook, you do not have to worry what's on the special menu at the diner because you control what you eat. You control your consumption. You do it. They don't want you to eat. They want you to be dependent on them. They want you to listen to them. They've been always trying to tell you, listen, we know more about this than you do. You don't know what's going on here. We know this. Don't you understand this? You're just some civilian. You don't understand what we know. We're the smart ones. You just don't have it in you. And they want you to know this. They really want you to know this. This is so important. Let me also tell you something. The first thing, which is the most important, also, I keep saying most important because it's really true. The first thing you do is when you hit the level, whether it's, I don't know, whether it's Fox News, Big Shot, whatever, people will say, I want this guy. I want this guy on our team. How do we buy you? How do we own you? We appreciate what you are saying. We want to buy you. We want to own you. Does this make any sense to you? You probably think I'm exaggerating. Let me give you an example of something. The message. How would you tell people? If your job was to try to convince the American public that the plight of the Palestinians in Gaza, for example, was such that they should pay attention and they should not be anti-Israel, but they should say we need a cessation of this. We need a ceasefire. We need this is just beyond cruel. Okay, doesn't that make sense? What would be the first thing you wouldn't do? You wouldn't insult America. You wouldn't say death to America. Well, that doesn't do anything. Why would you want to say death to America? Why do people want to do that? Why? Well, either one of two things. Either they're stupid or they're not who they say they are. Do you understand this? Let me give you an example. Let's assume that I'm a transphobe. Okay? I'm a transphobe. I'm somebody who doesn't like trans people. I don't like them for whatever reason. Now, what would I do? How would I get the message out? Would I go and would I support Christian groups to say the Bible said no? What I would do is I would put together a group of people who say they were trans activists, and I would have them scare the hell out of you. Remember when we had, do you remember when we had trans drag shows at libraries? Do you remember that? Every day. Remember that? Every day you saw someplace, and there was always some little town. It was little town. Why was that? And I couldn't for the life of me say, why would you want to do this? If you're trying to promote, by the way, it wasn't trans because these people weren't trans. They were just drag queens. Why would you want to do it? I would not be surprised if those people had nothing to do truly with the movement, but were put to show you the danger and the extreme lunacy of these people. Did you ever hear John Kennedy read John Kennedy's, the senator, John, read his depiction of this one book? I can't even say it. To hear him say it, it's so eerie where he's reading about lubed and just whatever. Read this. Why do you think? And they had literally the scariest people you've ever seen. And that's all I'm going to say. Now, let me ask you a question. Yes or no? Do you think those were legitimate, actual, real, bona fide trans or LGBT or non-binary activists that were selected because of their worth, or were they put there to scare you? Were they? Were they? If all of a sudden somebody were having a very peaceful civil rights movement and I orchestrate a bunch of my crisis actors and my kabuki dancers to come out, and these are black, not counter protesters, but people joining in saying death to white people. Those are staged actors. I put them in deliberately, and they mean it. Oh, I didn't get people who don't believe it. Oh, they believe it. I can get anybody you want. I can get anybody you want. When I put that in, do you think that helps the cause? No, not at all. See, the worst thing you can ever do is to have somebody say, these people aren't really that, they're pretty, it's interesting. Did you see that the other day? There was a parade. They had all these trans people, and I didn't know how many were veterans and war heroes. And one guy was a silver star. And these people are. I think I'm gonna rethink that. They're not doing that. They're not doing that. They don't tell you anything. They don't want to demystify it. No, they want to bludgeon you with it. Why is that? Do you think these people sincerely want you to really, honestly embrace, for example, trans movement? No. No. It's absurd. When you go to a rally and somebody's standing there wearing the kifia, whatever the Palestinian, and they're yelling death to America, do you really think this guy's legitimate? This guy's thinking, I'm gonna win the hearts and souls over. What? No. Let me give you another good one. This is another good one. One of my favorite people right now, and it's sad that we've been doing this, suggesting this, is J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling is one of the most interesting people because she is arguing this position that is just, for lack of a better word, just absurd. Let me read this to you. Or point this thing out, I should say. And she's made this her point. She said, basically, She writes this very long piece, I think on YouTube, J.K. Rowling, about what makes a woman. And she writes something that I believe a woman is a human being who belongs to the sex class that produces large gametes. It's irrelevant whether or not her gametes have been fertilized, whether or not she's carried a baby to term. Irrelevant if she was born with a rare difference of sexual development that makes neither of the above possible, or if she's aged beyond being able to produce viable eggs. She is a woman, and just as much a woman as the others. I don't believe a woman is more or less a woman for having sex with men, women, both, or not wanting sex at all. I don't think a woman is more or less a woman for having a buzz cut and liking suits and ties, or wearing stilettos and mini dresses, for being black, white, or brown, for being 6 feet tall or a little person, for being kind or cruel, angry or sad, loud or retiring. She isn't more of a woman for featuring in Playboy or being surrendered or being a surrendered wife, nor less of a woman for designing space rockets or taking up boxing. What makes her a woman is the fact of being born in a body that, assuming nothing has gone wrong in her physical development, which, as stated above, still doesn't stop her from being a woman, is geared towards producing eggs as opposed to sperm, towards bearing as opposed to begetting children. And irrespective of whether she's done either of these things or even wants to. This is going on right now in the year 2024. Why do you think that is? Why is there this debate? Now, I think it's good for her because they're going after J.K. Rowling and she has a lot of money. In March of 2022, then Supreme Court nominee, now Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, was being answered questions with a senator, Senator Blackburn. Question: can you provide a definition of the word woman? Judge Jackson: no, I can't. Blackburn: you can't? Jackson: I'm not a biologist. Why do you think that's going on? Do you really believe that Judge Jackson does not know what a woman is? No. Do you think that this is a signal? Why are we doing this? Do you think that we're really debating what a woman is? Of course not. Of course not. Do you think anybody really honestly doesn't know what it is? No. Because when you ask somebody who is dressed like a man in a suit with a buzz cut and a tie and cordovans and wingtips, and you ask them, excuse me, what are you dressed as? The person does not respond, I don't know. They say, no, I'm dressed like a man. So do you know what it is? So it's just a waste of time. Do you know why we're having squatting? And by the way, this is squatting. Squatting is this thing which is the most important. Do you understand? And by the way, just go to Lionel Legal and you'll see this thing. Do you understand that for the first time, and we've always had the notion of adverse possession, but do you understand why there is this advance of squatting all of a sudden? And people don't know what to do. Do you think this is happening just by accident? Do you think that up till now we've never understood the notion of burglary? Do you think that we have never been able to grasp what burglary is? No. Why do you think this is? Why? This is orchestrated. This is a part of it. This is this change. And by the way, you can be a part of the orchestration. Why? Did you hear what I just talked about? I'm talking about sex and gender, right? I'm doing that. I'm not a part of this debate, but I'm forced to talk about it. Why? Because they they have created the agenda. So it gets people like me to talk about things that don't make any difference. I'm pointing out to you, say, what the hell's going on here? And I'm talking about penises versus this, because I'm a citizen and I am in the maelstrom of activity called commentary, and I am now being forced by virtue of the people who set forth this ridiculous notion. But the stuff that we should be talking about, we're not, because we're talking about this. And this is good because this is not a distraction. This just keeps us kind of busy. That's all it is. Because the real issues are the most important. The real issues, number one, is artificial intelligence. Number one. Number two, there was a story that occurred just recently. I read this yesterday. Washington Post did it on Lavender. This is a program that is being done that has a 10% error rate where it targets the individual Hamas targets that need to be hit and to be destroyed. This changes the complexion and everything of complete and total warfare and the like. It is the most important issue there is. But people are absolutely terrified of even talking about it, because you have one of two movements in this country. They have looked at this as being either anti-Israel or pro-Israel, without any reference to Palestinians or Gazans. No. In the issue has been changed, is pro-Israel or anti-Israel. That's it. We saw this during during the Vietnam War. Are you American or un-American? America loved it. Excuse me, I'm talking about this. That's not the issue. Let me tell you something very interesting right now. Pay close attention. Watch what's happening to Katt Williams, number one, because Katt has to be crushed. They have to Alex Jones him. I would love to see. These are some of the most important people of all time. Believe me when I tell you that. And you there was a was it HBO, the documentary on Alex Jones about the Sandy Hook thing. I mean, somebody said this is still relevant. He's not dead yet. Crush him. Okay, fine. Somebody has to go after people like, remember who this? Candace Owens. Candace Owens, if she plays this and negotiates this, well, she is in. Let me change courses here a little bit. Candace Owens is not going to listen to me. But the best part in the world, the best moment for people who are doing what I do and what we do, is one of two things happening. Number one, you exhibit an opinion which defies, or which is seemingly betrays the idea of the usual folks. What am I saying? It's something like this. It is now very safe for people like Bill Maher, whatever you think of him, is like wherever the wind is blowing. He doesn't care he'll say whatever. And it's a very smart way to do it. Whatever is important, whatever it is. Okay. So it became cool to say, I'm anti-woke. I'm anti-cancel culture. Dave Chappelle did it. Other people did it. It was very, very interesting. Okay? You understand this? So that's number one, where you either abnegate or speak against something. Okay? Number one. Number two is when you are embraced by a new group of people. One of the smartest moves ever. I'm going to say something, and I know most people don't get it, but I think you will. Beyonce's recent country cover is brilliant. You've exhausted your crowd. You've got yours. So now you're reaching out to a whole group of people who say, you know what? I like her. Or, that's not country, but they're talking about you. And you're going to get any more people. By the way, I'm the only one who I like the music of that. I hate when people say this isn't country. Excuse me. Listen to Tony Jackson if you want to hear some great. Oh my God, Tony Jackson. And on the private channel, I've been talking about Tony Jackson blows me away. Tony Jackson is a black country music singer who sings. Oh my God, he's doing Conway Twitty better than I've ever heard in my life, and he's not at all gratuitous. That's the way to do it. Okay, what am I saying? Candace Owens has pretty much run the table on whatever it is she's doing. Candace Owens, as an example, is the black conservative. Gee, that's novel. Not really. This goes back to Ken Hamlin, Armstrong Williams, goes back, J.C. was it Watts? Remember him? This is old. But Tom Sowell, really, if you really want to get back to it, Tom Sowell and Walter Williams and others. So there's nothing, but the gimmick is, wow, look at this. And Candace Owens has this chance to say, I've exhausted, because she's good, but now she is in this unique, this fault line, this seismic tectonic plate, this subduction cleaving regarding Israel and Gaza. And she has the chance to reach out to a whole bunch of people. And that's what's happening right now that you've never seen before. Remember one thing, there was I can't remember the fellow's name, Santiago, or I should get it. Tucker Carlson did it. It was very good. There are new groups of people that you are embracing. And one of the most critical issues right now is not Israel and Gaza, but war versus non-war. The old, tried and true leftist, prototypically left liberal folks are against war. There are some who are against Israel, but they're against war, and they're not being served. In the United States, in our media, we have two groups, left and right, both 100% quote for Israel. This has nothing to do with Israel. I mean, I hate to say it. Israel's great. Nobody's against Israel, or this is about a particular policy going on right now. The same way, I am not un-American, but I have real problems with some of the policies. You see how that's being phrased? Well, that's not what's being done. And that's why when I see people standing there screaming death to America, I'm thinking, if I didn't know better, I think they got you from central casting to have people conflate that group with a lot of people who say, look, and we're not even getting to issues like Zionism. I'm not doing that. So Candace Owens has the chance to reach out and to say, listen to me. I am not this, this monster conservative, black sellout. No, my core values. It's the perfect time to reach out and to say, you know what, we have a lot, because remember something. You always do better when people like you than when people don't. Rush Limbaugh, at the height of his career, had more people who liked him, even though people swore they hated him. They liked him. They really liked him. Let me give you another example regarding this issue. Right now, as we speak, there's a fascinating group of people that I like quite a bit on YouTube. Judge Napolitano, Jeffrey Sachs, Mearsheimer. I love Mearsheimer. I always have. Mearsheimer, Alistair Crook, Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, even Katie Halber, a lot of people who were, Democracy Now! And Goodman, and okay. These are people who I don't dislike them. Never. It's a music. It's like, I prefer this kind of music. All of them now are in this group. There's not a Palestinian in the group. There's not one. And when I say that, this is tectonic plate shifting here. And this is the chance you're seeing a real repositioning of now getting rid of, well, what is conservative and what isn't, and what is what is liberty, and what do we stand for, and what about, and by the way, you know who else is suffering is the Ukraine story. Look at these stories about their hiring the disabled, and allegedly men in Ukraine are marrying, so they say, disabled women to grant the exemption from mobilization. What I'm saying now is that there is a shifting here. This is really interesting. And there are no transition positions. You're seeing people. See, in the old days, there was in fact, if you get the chance to spend some time this weekend or this week, try to catch William F. Buckley on American Masters. Very good. And it was, William F. Buckley was kind of like the Beatles. The British invasion, William F. Buckley. The Beatles were, there was rockabilly, there was, Dwayne Eddy, and there was Elvis, and there was, there was that stuff, but not the Beatles. Something happened. Rock and roll with a different flavor. There was always conservative speak to an extent. There was always John Birch. There was always this. There was always right wing. There was always, but nothing like the crystallization of the conservative movement via William F. Buckley. He gave it a luster, a veneer, a kind of a sugar coating. He made it palatable. It was interesting. It was delightful. He really made it cool. And that is kind of where most of you, I think, I would venture to say, well, let me ask you, give me the year. Just give me 1 year. Don't say anything. Don't write anything other. Just give me a year when your political personification crystallized, when you were red pill. I don't want to go into that again, but give me the year. I want a year. No other words. Just the year. When did you form? The you. When did the Pittman, the Fay, the Laurie Cuck, when were you formed? When were you born again? What year was it? 64? No, not. Okay. Not, I'm trying to think. I don't think you're, maybe you were, maybe you're older. 2010, 61. Maybe we've got an older group. Not when were you born, but when was your political, I was born in 2001. I was born in 9/11. September the 11th, 2001, I was born. Everything before that, I was in a coma. 2001, yeah. 2001. September the 11th, 2001. Excuse me. I was born 9/11. I was in a coma before. I was in an adolescent stage. I didn't exist. I mean, it was there sort of, but I did not have this, I was born again. This moment, this Saul at Tarsus, and this Damascus, boom. No. Because that's what you've got to ask yourself. When was it? When was that? See, that's the first thing I need to know about you. Because that tells me everything about you. It tells me, when is it? When did it happen? Because that tells me everything. And what was that moment? It's normally one of two things. One is either you destroyed something that happened before, or number two, you realize something that was there the whole time. Mrs. L, I'll tell you very simply, I think, maybe I don't speak for you, is when the whole notion of child predation hit you like a ton of bricks and you said, I'm going to be a warrior. It was this pow. This is it. And it gets you. And sometimes when we have these moments, they're more internal. Many of you find great people, and God love you for this, to say, when I stopped drinking, when I became sober, when I found the Lord, or those are moments, pivotal, critical moments I also like to think of it when you harden, when you set. When you take a a, a brisket off the smoker, you got to let it set and sit. It settles. All the juices come in. If you cut it too early, if you try to expose, if you haven't really formulated your ideas yet, you're not ready in it. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see this? These are issues. These are issues that I'm telling you right now are happening right before our eyes. And I need for you to stop and say, I see what's happening. Because you must understand the transition that is before us. That's what's important. And it may mean going to different places. Something is happening today that is so relevant, but it's so stupid. But it is so relevant and so poignant and so stupid. Simultaneously, it's a solar eclipse. Since the beginning of mankind, the first thing we looked up and said, holy shit. That was the moment when God was born. I don't mean to mean that it's this. We are reliving something today that humankind has been involved in since the beginning of time, but we are living in a way that is so ridiculous and so sad. I'm sorry to say this. It is so idiotic in terms of this, whatever you want to call this thing. We're at a very critical time right now. And my job is very simple, to explain, but also to call out and say, you see that guy? Yeah, phony. Phony. That's a psyop. That's a paid operative. That is a phony, baloney. This is the evil. See, our enemies are not necessarily foreign; they're domestic. Our enemies, the people who really want to do us harm, they're here, and they're not necessarily in Washington. Washington, believe it or not, is the proxy of other people. Social media, entertainment, sports, current behaviors. When I see people walking around, you're going to laugh at this, wearing a mask under their chin, I realize, oh my God, they're just like that elephant, that circus elephant whose leg was chained and is standing in one place, not realizing, you can, just because we put the chain on you, it's not connected to anything. But the elephant doesn't know, because every time you put the chain on his leg, he remembers when he couldn't move. Now all you gotta do is put the chain on. You don't have to connect it to anything. That's what we are. So when I see people walking around with masks, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. This is their chain. This is their subjugation. This is their surrender. This is their moment. This is their lunacy. This is this moment of horror. Does that make any sense to you? It's their moment. It's their moment of subjugation. So that's that. Our enemies are here. They're not anywhere. It's not Russia. It's not China. It's not. I mean, they're important, but it's not our enemy. It's here, right here. And you know what else is the enemy? You know who else is? Believe it or not, the schools. The schools are indoctrination centers, if anything. Television, cable, bought and sold politicians. When you have a real vaccine, the idea is that you have either a dead version of the virus or a weakened version of the virus. This is the old methodology. You introduce it, and you have the body basically triggers antibodies to say, there it is, and therefore you'll be protected when the real one shows up. That's kind of like the way you use it. I'm not going to get into mRNA. It's a different mechanism. So what they do is they introduce to you these half-baked, phony politicians, these weak versions of the live, real McCoy, and they introduce them, and the false prophets, and the Ben Shapiros, and the Charlie Kirks, and the people and the CPACs, people whom you consider to be representative of factions. They're not. They're I don't say they're false prophets, but they're like weakened versions of it. And you've been fooled and duped into thinking they're legitimate. They're not it. They're not. They're there for the money. And I can't blame them. And you know what? Cheers to you. Cheers to you. And all they need is a little success. But the real issues in the world, the real stuff, very few people are able to explain this to you because you're too busy caught up in other things. And that's by design. That's all. And I want you to go back, and I want this to be your second awakening. I want this to be it. I want this to be the moment you say, I remember this. I was okay for now, and then I did it. It's like sometimes those of you who have struggled with substance abuse will recognize the fact that it is not uncommon, not necessarily expected, but it is not uncommon for you to relapse. By the way, I need 800 likes. I'm sorry. But it's not uncommon for you to relapse. But that's okay, because sometimes the second time that does it, because the relapse reminds you, wow, this is very serious. So you had your born again moment once, day you went sober, right? And then maybe you kind of fell off the wagon, so to speak. Maybe you've forgotten over the years what it was like when you were first brought into awareness. Maybe that changes now. That changes completely. Raul Rodriguez says, in 1964, I understood politics when I saw Johnson and Jason the Argonauts. I was 10 years old. Wow. Well, good for you. I wish I could say that I had those moments like that. I did not really understand that. When I was 5, I saw my mother cry when Kennedy was assassinated. That was something. But I don't think I really put things together then. No. I kind of went along. 2001, Tuesday, September the 11th. Everything. 2001. Everything changed. And to be in the middle, and I'm not in any way trying to, if you want to see the middle of war, look at Gaza. That's war. Look at Vietnam. Look at battle. I wasn't in the middle of that. But I was in the city and uptown from where this monumental event took place, and could smell it for weeks later and heard the sirens constantly. The sirens were just, you can't believe how many sirens. You've never heard every siren here in New York, every siren from every vehicle went on like that. It's the most incredible thing in the world. That changed my life. So also, don't ever dismiss something. Remember, again, this eclipse is important because this is a hearkening back, a reference to an age-old kind of a tribal thing that we do whenever we don't understand what's going on in the world. That's kind of what we're doing. But we're not spending, it's just all about getting the glasses and standing there. And I don't think anybody really understands. It's become trivialized already. The story is about the story, not the eclipse. The story is about, Look how people are responding. Well, what kind of should you buy these glasses? And what does it do to your eyes? And Airbnb are making a killing. And will the clouds, will our phones be able to work? You're missing the whole point of the eclipse. You're just talking about you're doing this usual thing. I want to leave you with this. What happens if Jesus Christ came back today? How would Fox News cover it? Let's go right now live to Bethesda, where we get word for the Jesus Christ has arrived. Let's go right now to John Arthur Jones. John Arthur, what? Well, that's right, we are here. And who was this man, Jesus of Nazareth? And they'll have B-roll, born to a carpenter and a virgin, Jesus, and of course, consonant, and became the term Christianity. And they will destroy it. They'll have artist renditions. And let's look at the role of Jesus throughout history with our guest, Andrew Lloyd Webber, and somebody from Godspell, and Jesus Christ Superstar, and the Jesus Movement. And let's go right now to Marjo Gardner, who played Jesus. I mean, they would destroy. Jesus would say, Jesus. I mean, what do you... It's about me, but we wouldn't know how to handle it. We would destroy it by doing our B-roll stuff. We'd have the guy from New York, the producer. Well, I did the Emmys and I did the Golden Globe, so I'm going to produce this spot. All right, let's go. Let's send Ramona. Go on to this sign. Can we get a look live, an as live, or Ramona? Can we do this? Let me see graphics. How's the graphics? Is that picture? We need our thing. Jesus, the second coming. We got to have a name for this. Brought to you by, Tide Bounty or Tide Pods or whatever it is. We would have a sponsor. There'd be a corporate sponsor. They would have Jesus lookalikes like Michael Jackson. You would destroy the moment. Think about what I'm saying. I'm not kidding you. We would destroy the moment because we've lost any kind of sobriety, dare I say. Okay? Raul Rodriguez, thank you, my friend. Thank you. The sole benefactor this morning, I thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for that. Now, remember a couple of things as I told you. This is Lionel Legal. Check out my newest version, my newest take on squatting and why this is a controlled demolition of our legal system to subjugate you and get you used to more lack of control. Also, go to Lynn's Warriors right now. Everyone, I want every single person to go to Lynn's Warriors and subscribe. And also follow her on Twitter at Lynn's Warriors, LYNNS_Warriors. And you must hear the latest interview that she did, which is the most powerful. You will feel rejuvenated. You will feel like, oh my God, there's hope for the world. I'm dead serious. I am not saying this to be a coy or cute. I mean it. It is with a woman by the name of Liz Quiroz, Quiroz. Absolutely incredible. And this is her. This is the link. All right. I want you to go right there, right now, and just listen to this. You will not believe your ears. That's the link. I put it right there. So make sure you go to Lynn's Warriors and also listen to this video, this interview. It'll blow your mind. Follow me here. I've got videos aplenty coming. Thank you for spending time. Thank you for listening. And remember, this is your second born again moment. You are born again today. Okay? Again. Starting from scratch because everything is brand new. Believe me. You just got to know where to look. All right, friends. Have a great and glorious day. See you tonight at 8 p.m. Don't forget, 7 p.m. rather. Plenty of videos coming. And don't forget this, the monkey's dead. The show's